Welcome back to Ollie Talks Airsoft. Today's video is going to be, I don't know how long, it's going to take as long as it takes. We're talking DMRs. We're talking DMR MWS today. This is a video that I promised for a little while. We're going to talk about the setup that I've had in my MWS in the past, the setup that I've just put in here. So I did a bit of filming yesterday, and I was pretty happy with how everything turned out until I'd finished recording and then went to test the gun, and it wasn't working. There wasn't enough pressure being created in the hop-up chamber in order to get an effective effective lift on the BB. And this is something which I kind of wasn't expecting, because I replaced the hop arm and I replaced the nub in there. So I thought it certainly appeared like there was being more pressure applied. Now, I mean, the easiest way to tell if your hop is actually working and if pressure is being applied is get a loaded mag, put some BBs in, turn the hop all the way off, drop the bolt. If a BB rolls out at the end of the barrel, the hop is not working. I then turned the hop all the way up to the max, did the same thing, and the BB still just dropped out of the barrel. That means that there's no hop effect. It means that the gun won't shoot properly, and it's useless. It's useless at that point. So there's no use to man or beast. So the bits coming up are going to be, I'll cut in some of the video that I did yesterday, but what we're actually going to be looking at is how I'm going to cram even more into this hop up. And actually I'm going to make a couple of changes to this. So the issue that I was having with this particular gun is it's nothing to do with like the accuracy. That was all fine. It was just the range that I was getting on it. It was really disappointing. So I figured what I need to do is change. It's usually the hop up rubber that you're going to need to go for your range. Range isn't really affected by the length of your barrel or anything like that. But in this one, I do happen to have a 370mm barrel within a 14.5 steel Z parts outer. Now, this is hefty. Like, this is like a full solid lump of steel. Weighs like double what the original one does. The feel that this actually gives your gun is great. It is a bit of a difference between your gun feeling like a bit of a toy, like an airsoft gun, and feeling a bit more realistic. And certainly having a steel barrel has been one of my favourite upgrades that I've ever done with my MWS. The only thing that I would really like to do for this particular gun, I would love to get one of the GMP forged receivers, basically making this gun as strong as it possibly could be. Unfortunately, these Z parts barrels won't fit because of the proprietary inner barrel system that they use on the GMP receivers. Real disappointment. I wish they'd come out with just stock MWS forged receivers, but you don't always get what you want. You can't always have it all. So let's have a quick look at this hop system, and let's see what I'm going to change on it as well, because actually this gun, as stock, is shooting between 370 and 380 FPS. Now, anyone that's been in airsoft for a while will know that there's a bit of a thing about matching your FPS with the hot rubber that you're using. And this is something where I don't know whether I just don't understand at all, whether I'm being thick, but have a gun like this, for example, and with this length in a barrel, it's shooting at 370, 380 FPS on a .2. If I was to put in a pistol length barrel, this would then be shooting maybe like 250 FPS. So what rubber should I be using in it? Like, because ultimately the BB and the backspin are created here. Why would the length of the rest of your barrel have anything to do with the rubber that you're putting in it? I mean, to me, in my tiny little mind, don't really seem to make sense. The only thing that I can think, and I'm pretty sure this is kind of how it goes, is that it basically comes over from AEG use. Now, in AEG, you've got a fixed volume of air, a fixed cylinder, and that air is always pumped out in the same volume. Now, again, yeah, if you put a longer in a barrel, it doesn't really affect the velocity of the BB as much because you've got that fixed amount of air. It will have an effect. Don't say that it won't. It will. It will have a small effect, but not in the same as like a gas blowback rifle. So traditionally, if you're playing in the UK, like a 60 degree is going to be about where you want to be. It's about 330-ish feet per second, give or take 20 or so. 60 degrees is pretty good, and that's about where they say you should be. I don't know who they are. That's about where they say you should be. So for this, people would probably say that I should be using a 70 degree rubber. And you know what? I've actually had a delivery come through, and I do actually have a couple of 70 degree rubbers. So I think that I'm going to pop one in here, and we're going to see how it goes. But I'm going to show you what else I've done, because I've now packed a lot into this hop up. I know that it's working. I know that it's got all the hop effects are being applied, because after redoing it last night, I dropped the bolt and it's not dropping BBs out of the barrel. So I know that it's capturing that BB. But yeah, my delivery today just made me go, oh, you know what, let's dig in again and let's swap it out for another one. So let me just grab the parts and we'll have a look. So here we have a little collection of Maple Leaf hot rubbers. So we've got a 2021 Autobot. So we've got two of those. So I'm not going to be using them. And in here I have got a 60 degree Mr. Hop and a 70 degree Mr. Hop. And this is the one that we're going to go for. So, very simple, pull our inner out, and this will pretty much, because I've skillfully lost the O-ring that goes around there, it's not essential, that is the inside of my hop up. So, I know the camera's going to be terrible at picking this up, but if it can, nope. Okay. Well, there is an I key in here. So I'll take a photo. Okay, so yeah, hopefully you can see there. We've actually got the arm with an Omega nub that's been glued on there. As I said, I'm not sure why I did that. I must have thought that it was going to be better for some reason or another. I don't know. A couple of years ago. Don't know. But, okay, so let's go for this new silicone Mr. Hop. So put that one back in the packet, because it's barely been used. It's literally just held a couple of BBs, so that's fine to just go back into another gun. Right, let's slip this new Mr. Hop onto the barrel, and you can see, like, it's quite nice with these actually, because they're see-through, you can see exactly what's going on with them all the time. Yeah. So you can see how the patch is sitting perfectly, or I can certainly tell anyway, from there. That's really good. Yep, perfectly happy with that. So the next thing we're going to do, we'll index the lump on the side of here with the edge of the hop chamber. So this is an original TM hop chamber actually. I do really like the Angry Gun polymer ones, simply because it's possible to mod them. The little hole inside them isn't actually big enough for an I key, but you can take a knife to it and make it big enough for an I key. Certainly with this one, it does actually just fit in there without any extra interference. So for me, that seems to work perfectly. And when I put this arm over the top, I can see that it is going to be applying always a tiny little bit of hop up. But being that I'm I predominantly use 0.28s and 0.32s in this. I need it to be able to actually have a good hop effect, and that's what I was lacking previously. So once you've got the two halves together, you should be able to pull up on this bit and see, yep, that's definitely hop being applied, and it's being applied evenly, and that is very important. So again, I'm not going to worry about, there is an O-ring at the front just here, a really thin one on the actual barrel, but then there's the one further back. I lost it, I don't know where it is, but the whole thing gets clamped and held together inside the outer barrel anyway. So that's how it's going to sit. So that's how it's now looking. So let's slip this back into the upper receiver. Again, the one thing that you want to make sure is that you've got the hop up turned all the way off when you're doing this. Make sure that the arm on here, and you can see there's a little ridge on it, that basically needs to have the other bit under there so it can actually push up on it. So as I put this together, you put them in like this. What I'm actually going to do is turn it and look inside to make sure that they have actually lined up correctly, and hopefully you can see in there that they have. So as I turn the wheel, it is actually going to be moving the hop up. So pretty satisfied with that. So now we're just going to give this, normally I would give this barrel a quick tap. Obviously I'm not going to, because that would literally be hitting the inner barrel off the end of it. So I'm going to put the flash hider on and then just give it a little tap, just to make sure that it is well seated in here and that there's already like not going to be any movement in there. I can then get my barrel nut, slip that over the top and tighten this up. Okay, now with the Geisleys you do actually get a proprietary barrel nut tool, so obviously that's what I'm going to use to get this nice and tight, or at least try to, until it hurts my hand too much. Normally you can do these things hand tight. The most important thing is that this barrel must not have any movement in it. It must not have any wibble or anything like that. Oh god, that is stiff. All right. And that's why my barrels don't wobble. Very, very solid. Yep, that ain't going nowhere. So now we will take off the flash hider, because we've got a couple other bits that need to go on here. For the aesthetics, we want to get the gas tube on. Doesn't do anything. Don't need to run this at all. It has no function. But if anything, it just adds a bit of weight to your gun. So if you're like me and you like a hefty gun, then yeah, make sure you put your gas tube back in. But it's not actually essential to the running of the gun or to its firing or anything like that. So if you forget it, don't worry about it. It's all good. So tighten this back on. Oh dear, I think I moved it as I tightened it. That was very unskilled of me. Near as damn it. Like, that'll do. Like I said, if it's you don't want to put your hop up in one key, you don't want to put your barrel in. Well, I don't think you can even put the barrel in one key, but you really want to be avoiding all of that stuff. But yeah, if it's not perfectly straight, I don't know what you think of that. Maybe it's straight, maybe it's not. It doesn't affect the performance, so I'm just not worried about it. Right, next up, what we're going to have. I can actually put the flash hider on now, so not a bad idea, because it means that obviously having the tip of that barrel exposed at any point, and especially me wiggling the gun around all over the place, if I knock that against something, I damage it, that's going to have huge impact on the accuracy that I get out of this thing. So really don't want that to happen. So having a last little look around. Okay, I see one thing that I forgot. I didn't actually put the collar on the hop up, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to see how it runs without. I think it'll probably be fine. as long as I'm getting a hop effect off it, that's going to be an improvement over what I've had previously. Right, next up, let's get this rail slid back on. That's tight. So with this particular rail, what I'm going to want to do is put the... God, why did it do that? Oh. Don't know why it blew up there. So I'm going to want to put these bolts going back through it first. And actually, in order for the bolts to go through, there has to be a tiny gap between the rail and the upper receiver. Like that's actually needs to be there. There we go. Okay, so I've got one through. So that's fine, and I'll push the other one through. Okay, they go all the way through, right. All fine. So I'll get my two washers, drop them in. Obviously, whatever rail you've got, you're going to have to, you know, you'll know how it goes on or how it adjusts and things like that. So that should be all good. So what I'm going to do is, first, now these now I've got the rail on, I'm going to, by the way, I'm not resting it on the scope here, I'm resting it on the back here. I'm now going to push it down. As I push it down, I'm going to give these a little bit of a tighten. Not wanting to take these all the way because we haven't straightened the rail yet. The way that I would normally straighten the rail is by getting almost anything that, any kind of optic, and putting it on top of the rail, in between the rail and the upper receiver. So to explain what I mean by that, normally I would get this scope and move it up to here so that it clamps this rail perfectly straight. On the bottom here, you can actually see there is a gap at the bottom here, and there is a smaller gap here. These two screws actually just even that up. So that's how I'm going to do my adjustment. I'm just going to go in right now and just adjust these screws. So I can see that this one needs to move over a little bit. So I will keep tightening it until, there we go, and it's starting to create a gap on this side. Then go through and I'll tighten the other side. And I should end up with a pretty even gap. I would say that that's perfect actually. Then just go around, make sure that everything is nice and tight. Have a last little look at your work desk, make sure that you haven't got anything left there. If you've got any springs, or like me, that little collar is missing. You know, you can decide whether you need to go back in and put it back in or not. Now all I'm going to do is tighten down these main two bolts. Now I'm happy that this is straight. And there we go. This is now back together, and as you can see, if I try and push the barrel, it just doesn't want to move. This is going to be great for, you know, when you're wanting accuracy and things like that. The last thing you want is like a VFC or something where your barrel's literally like flippy flopping about all over the shop. That's going to kill you, especially if you're looking for something like a DMR. Like you need, it's a marksman's rifle. It's supposed to be like one and done, shoots far, shoots accurately. Hopefully, now that we've got the regular hop arm, an Omega nub pushing onto an I key with a 70-degree Mr. Hop, this is going to be a real adventure. This has got everything in it. Yeah, I can't wait to take it out to the next game actually and see what it does. High hopes, I would say. So first off, it's the end of the video almost. Let's make sure it works. This is the one bit that I really didn't do yesterday and that I fully dropped the ball on. And that is the testing part of it. And that's kind of like the most important thing, because that's the reason I had to go back into my gun again. Because I didn't bother. I didn't bother checking that it actually worked. So we are back together. So bear with me a moment. I'm going to get a mag, put some BBs in it, and let's turn the hop all the way off and see if it drops it, then start applying hop and see if it drops the BBs. So obviously guys, for any kind of testing, you want to put your glasses on. So with the hop all the way off, not adjusted it, mag in, put the gun this way up, and drop the bolt. That's a good start. That means that at least the BBs are being held. Let's quickly see what the FPS is. 387. So right about where I was expecting. About 380 FPS is going to be what you're going to be getting out of this. That's good. That's with the hop off. Almost don't really need to turn it on now because I know that it is working. Even with the hop turned all the way off, it's still capturing that BB. Next thing to come out is going to be me doing probably a bit of range testing and seeing how this is actually, how it's all worked through the system. So hopefully you found this useful, hopefully you found it interesting. And yeah, obviously the results to come. But yeah, you know, sometimes you go in, you make those adjustments, you think it's going to work fine, and it just doesn't. And that's why it's always worth doing a couple of extra tests at home, just to make sure that when you go to the field, you're going to get what you're expecting. So, yep. It was good that I did the extra testing last night. I figured out that actually, no, what I'd done to make it work still wasn't working. The arm still wasn't managing to apply enough hop, even when it was all the way on. And it basically just means that you've just got to pack it out more. So for me, that was changing the nub and putting an I key in there, doubling up. I've not heard of anyone doing it before. I don't think it's not necessary, but for this particular gun, it just seems like it is necessary. I'll take it out, I'll test it, I will feed back, and I'll let you know what's going on with it. But certainly, yeah, with the other combinations that I had, it just wasn't getting that hop effect. I have a feeling that it may be to do with the competition hot wheel. So that red part in there. I really like the theory, and I really like the idea behind it. I just don't know how well they're actually executed in practice, because I've only really had trouble with the hop where I've been using those fine adjustment wheels. So I don't know whether it's the fine adjustment wheel or just how it's meshing with the system. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but certainly you can see now what I've got in this system, and obviously, yeah, I'll feed back and I'll let you know how it actually performs out on the range. I'm expecting big things. Yeah, there's no reason it shouldn't be able to perform well. It's got good FPS, about what you'd expect, especially for something like a DMR. It's got, you know, it's got the matched hot rubber, you know, degree percentage and stuff like that. Yeah, I think everything's good to go. Only thing left for me to do is obviously feed back to you guys and let you know how it worked out, and I will very much look forward to doing that. But thank you very much for spending your time with me. I've really always really enjoyed it. I love it. Until the next time, guys, take care.